Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Relationships and it's by user comp004. My fiance's best friend's boyfriend asked us, 24 male and 24 female, to back out of our trip with them so he could attempt to rekindle their struggling relationship. He offered to give us a full refund and even extra to cost the inconvenience, unsure how to proceed. My fiancée Mia has known her best friend Sarah and Sarah's boyfriend John for nearly 18 years now. They all went to school together and pretty much grew up together. They've always been a close little group of friends. Mia and I have been dating for 6 years and engaged for almost a year now, while Sarah and John have been dating for, I believe, 7 years or so. For the past 5 years, we have all been going on vacation with one another, kind of as a way to relax and just get to hang out without having to worry about our schedules matching up and all that stuff. John and Sarah's relationship has always been rocky from my point of view. From the first day I met them, I could clearly tell they had unresolved issues that they both just swept under the rug. I'm not saying I'm an expert or anything, but how they interacted with each other and even how they talked about one another when apart set off like warning bells in my head. Now, 2 months ago, John came to Mia and he was pretty upset, telling her that Sarah had been comparing their relationship to our own and that it was driving them apart. He said that she would constantly say things like, "Why can't you be more like Frank?" or "I bet Frank and Mia don't bicker about these little issues," and things of that nature. Apparently, Sarah really loved to compare John to me, which I feel is the #1 way to make your significant other feel inferior and resentful. Before Mia told me that he approached her, I had noticed his passive-aggressive behavior toward me for the past probably 6 months or so. Some days it was really obvious and other days it would be subtle. I always ignored it, chalked it up to him being in a bad mood or having something against me. After John talks to Mia, she goes and tries to talk to her friend and see what the heck is going on. She figured it must be serious if he came to her about it, so they talk and pretty much get absolutely nowhere. Mia doesn't want to give away that John spoke with her and Sarah is acting clueless. Then, John approaches both of us last Friday asking if we could please cancel our trip with them to New Orleans. He said that he believes his relationship is failing and that this trip with us will likely break it. He apologized and said he knew he didn't have a right to ask us, but was really looking for a solid favor from both of us. He offered to reimburse our plane tickets, hotel costs, and any other fees, as well as give us additional funds so that we could go on a vacation later. Our trip is supposed to start in a week, which gives us pretty much 3 days to decide what we are doing. John truly believes a vacation for the two of them alone will fix their relationship. Call me skeptical, but I don't see it making that big of a difference. Mia seems to think that maybe we should just listen to his request, back out of the vacation, and give them a chance. Obviously, it means a bit more to her, seeing as both John and Sarah are good friends of hers. Now, we can't really decide whether to stay or go. It doesn't really make a huge difference to me, but I'm still in the boat that it's a bad idea overall. First, if we don't go, then we'll have to quickly find a new place to go since we both already have our days off approved at work. Or worse, just go to work those days. We'll essentially have to lie for John and lie to Sarah about why we aren't going, and then we'll have to wait a whole another year to go to New Orleans, which we both were looking forward to. We've both been before, but it was so enjoyable that we want to go back. If we do go, then maybe we could help them with their struggling relationship or just spend time away from John and Sarah and give them space, or we really could end up ruining their relationship and I don't want to deal with the fallout between the three of them. John might resent us for not agreeing to his one request and things could be awkward, thus ruining the vacation anyways. At the end of the day, I'll support whatever Mia wants to do 100%, but we honestly can't make a decision ourselves. And as each day passes, it gets harder and harder. We see the issue in both decisions, and I guess the last choice would be to just straight up tell Sarah what's going on and how John feels, but I don't feel like it's my place to tell her that and it should come from him. Outside perspective? Well, OP, it's not an easy decision to make considering all of the logistics, but in my opinion, I would back out of that holiday altogether and take John's offer. I mean, you could choose a better place to go or something more fun and you can go to New Orleans later. Now, why would I back out? It's not because I think John can fix his relationship. Like you say, I'm skeptical as well, and I don't think a vacation between the two of them can actually build it back up. However, since Sarah is already comparing your relationship to theirs and making John's life miserable, do you really want to go on holiday with that? It will definitely not be an enjoyable experience and it'll ruin New Orleans for you guys. Personally, I would feel really uncomfortable going on holiday with a couple that's constantly fighting and constantly comparing themselves to us and just making the whole situation awkward. So if I put that on a scale against the logistic of the days that I already took off from work and the costs that inquires which will be covered and you get additional money, I would say, yeah, let's not go on that holiday, let them do whatever they need to do, and we just, back out. And regarding John and Sarah's relationship, you can involve yourself if you want to, but I would just try to stay away from that drama. Mostly because it doesn't sound like John is a really good friend of yours. He's more of an acquaintance or the boyfriend of your girlfriend's friend. And what do you guys think about this situation? What would you do if you were in OP's shoes? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. JohnnySaf5 says, I think you shouldn't go with them on the trip. If you go, they'll be fighting and John will blame you. That doesn't sound like fun. If you don't go, they will probably fight anyway, but it won't be your problem. If you do cancel, make sure John reimburses you up front. That kind of expense seems like something that might never get paid back otherwise. I don't think you should lie for John though and invent an excuse to bail. I think you guys should figure out an alternate destination and then Mia should tell Sarah that it isn't healthy that Sarah has been comparing John to you and that vacationing together isn't a good idea this year. Or that there have been too many tensions for a joint vacation to be a good idea this year, and each couple should spend some time on their own. And OP responds, John actually left us the money already. He gave it to us in an envelope the day he came over to talk with us. He told us it was ours to keep if we decided to cancel. Otherwise, we could just give it back when we met up with him again. Professor Peacock says, real talk, New Orleans will be a sweltering hellhole this time of year. It's an amazing city between November and early March. July and August, oh my god, it's like walking around in a steam bath all day long. Otherwise, I think maybe you should tell John you are willing to cancel the trip, but you don't feel right lying to Sarah and you'd appreciate if he could either A, come clean with her, or B, tell him you won't volunteer the info but you won't lie to her either. Then take the money and go on a road trip. No destination in mind, just drive. Stop and see things you haven't seen before. Enjoy the time together because honestly, trying to have fun in New Orleans in the middle of the summer with two people who are potentially fighting all the time is not my idea of a fun time. Kali Entai says, why can't you keep the flights, switch motels and do your own thing? And OP responds, the biggest issue with this is that if we go, then Sarah is going to want to hang out and spend time with us. She's going to wonder why we aren't doing things with them when the whole point of the trip was for all of us to spend time together. Sarah doesn't see this trip as a rekindle my relationship. I don't know how their communication is, but it seems like the issues are one-sided in John's side. Additional information from OP's comments. My first thoughts were, why does he want us to cancel when he could just suggest something to Sarah? I think he's scared and not really thinking straight. We did call him about 30 minutes ago and he basically was telling us Sarah is either in denial or refusing to see the gaping holes in their relationship. We made it clear that our backing out means either he tells Sarah the plan or we end up telling her, and that under no circumstances will we lie for him. I even told him myself how he should word it to her and try to make it about them and reconnecting as a couple. Now, I definitely don't disagree that Sarah is a piece of work, and I genuinely feel bad for John because a lot of the things she does or says are absolutely ridiculous. That's part of the reason why, even though I know he's taking his frustrations out on me, I will sympathize with the guy. I don't want to generalize her, but I think she's like your typical pretty attractive girl who thinks she can cut corners because of her good looks. She is actually really smart, but so inconsiderate that it seldom matters. She wants her relationship to be better, which is why she compares it to ours. But she doesn't want to change herself or work as a team with John. I think they're doomed, and have been since the first time I met them really. John lets her walk all over him, and I think they are past the point of turning that around. If and when they break up, that will undoubtedly affect Mia's relationship with both of them, which will eventually come back to me anyways. It's a lose-lose, really. Anyway, I think it's a terrible idea myself, but I think it just really highlights their poor communication skills. And if we decided to back out, we're just going to take the train up to New York and to just go shopping and to just pocket the leftover money really. I think we both agree we don't like to book stuff last minute. And we've been meaning to go to New York anyways. We can pocket the money and just go somewhere nice next year or for the winter. Alright, well, I think the community gave OP some pretty good advice, particularly that part about them not lying for John, which I absolutely agree with. And apparently, OP already has an idea of what to do if they're not going to New Orleans with them. So now let's move on to the update to see what happened next and how the story ends. But of course, before that, here's another one of my playlists for you to enjoy after this video. Now let's move on with that update. Mia and I didn't end up going on the trip to New Orleans with Sarah and John. After posting, we really thought about it, and a lot of the comments were right, that we would likely have a horrible trip and be blamed for it if they did happen to break up. John didn't end up telling Sarah about the drastic change of plans, which pretty much put it on us, more specifically me, to tell her the news. Mia said she was dreading telling her best friend that her boyfriend had asked us to back out of the trip, so I offered to do it for her. I talked to Mia about it and I told her how I was going to do it and in general what I had planned to say. I didn't know if I wanted to tell her how it was and call it a day, or if I actually wanted to try to fix or put Sarah's relationship into perspective. Sarah is a very pretty girl, there's no denying that, but her biggest flaw is how she treats people. I try my best not to judge, because I don't know how she ended up the way she is now, and according to Mia, she wasn't always so standoffish and inconsiderate. I actually remember when I first met her years ago, thinking she was a surprisingly decent person. Anyways, I had lunch with her Friday and pretty much told her that we were going to be backing out of the trip and that John wanted to go with her on the trip to spend some quality time together. She overacted as I assumed she would and immediately got angry and wanted to call John out for being so selfish and requesting something so unreasonable of us. I told her that it wasn't that big of a deal and that we could always do something smaller later on during the summer, and I advised that she consider going with him. Eventually, she calmed down and started asking me for relationship advice, something I'd purposely never given her because I always felt it wasn't my place to tell her anything. I don't like giving people relationship advice in general because everyone's relationship is a little different and everyone is willing to put up with different things. I start telling her about Mia and me, and about the small things we do for each other, and how we try our best to communicate, and just small talk about it really. I tell her why I think we're successful and how we're a team. She says something along the lines of, "You sound so amazing and I wish John would do something like that for me." I call her out in a friendly, joking way that she shouldn't say things like that, especially not to her boyfriend. If I didn't know any better, I'd say you might be wishing you were with me. Totally joking around with her, trying to lighten the mood without scolding her, even though her saying that is like a huge issue. She laughs and then there is a long pause followed by silence, and that's when everything pretty much started to click about her relationship, her behavior with John, and all that other stuff. She never actually admitted it, but I basically tell her that if she really loves John, that she shouldn't attempt to throw away her 7-year relationship on a maybe or a possibly, because there is a high chance that it will never be more than just that. I think she pretty much got the message. She did get a little upset, I figure. It probably was the first time someone had preemptively turned her down, or maybe she realized how much she had ruined her relationship. She pretty much told me to be honest about the state of her relationship and if I really thought that there was a chance she could fix it. I told her I think it would take a lot of work, but if she was willing to self-reflect that, she definitely could save him. I told her she should talk to Mia because honestly, she could give a better insight. She did talk to Mia as well shortly after our little lunch thing, and I guess between Mia and I, something went right because John and Sarah went on the trip to New Orleans by themselves and they came back and they both genuinely seem happy with one another. I'm sure it's too early to say if they are just riding the vacation high or if they'll really last, but John gave me the most bromantic hug I've ever received in my life when they came back and thanked me for whatever I did or said. Mia and I ended up taking a brief trip to New York by train to do some light shopping, and for the rest of the week we actually decided to take her two younger siblings and their best friends to the beach for a couple of days, which they all seemed to enjoy. And we did end up giving John back the extra money he gave us. Thanks for the advice. Crisis averted. Well, OP, it sounds like it's a happy update for you and Mia and a positive update for John and Sarah. I agree with you. It's too early to say if they fixed everything. I don't think they would, but they're definitely on the right track. So here's wishing all four of you the best in the future. Thank you so much for sharing, OP, and take care. Now let's finish this video with a mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance, and it's by user PracticalAd3462. You can't read your newspaper in work time. My best ever malicious compliance. Years ago, I was the systems supervisor at a university-based group. It was a joint group with the administration board and budget coming from university libraries around England and Wales. It was a cutting-edge network for each of the university's libraries, did their book dispensing and receipt, and also did the cataloging, which is quite complex. The catalog entry processing and various other batch processes ran automatically overnight, and the system had to be up and running for 8 AM when the libraries opened their doors. Before that could happen, the printouts from the overnight runs needed to be taken off the printer and the stack of line print paper logs had to be gone through to ensure no failures occurred. Only then could the computer be rebooted into an online mode for the libraries. Checking the stack of line printed logs took about an hour, so my practice was to arrive an hour early for work, go through the printouts, then I would restart the computer, and while that process was going on, would get a cup of coffee and sit down to read the news headlines and drink my coffee. Maybe a 10-minute break time. Enter my boss, who, for a university-educated manager of a university group, had the personality of a mid-19th century mill owner. Rude, arrogant, and entitled were just a few words to describe him. We have clashed a few times previous to this, but this was a real kicker. He came in and saw me reading a newspaper and drinking coffee at 8:05 AM, and, not letting me explain, he gave me a good talking to and told me he didn't expect to see me doing this again. The next day, I came to work at 8 AM on the dot. Then got the printout pile and started working through it at a normal pace with no need to dawdle. The libraries were already getting frustrated before I even started the checking process, but they didn't call us, they called him at home. He rushes in at 8:30 demanding to know why the computer wasn't up and available for the libraries yet. I told him that the overnight logs need to be checked for failures first, and that takes almost an hour. He said, "We have been running on this machine for a year. Why has this not been a problem before?" I looked deadpan at him and replied, "Because until yesterday I have been giving the group an unpaid hour of my time to enable the computer to be available to the libraries at 8 AM. As my efforts were not only ignored but treated with such anger yesterday, I have started working to rule on this now. The computer will not be restarted to online mode until these printouts are checked, and that will not start till 8 AM. He said I can come in early myself and check them. I said, "Not if you don't want a countrywide university workers' strike, you won't. Unions can be useful in some circumstances." Standoff for the next 2 days, followed by the deputy coming in to see me and asking me to a meeting with a group board member, an aged professor, who had come to get this fixed. The boss went away. Deputy, a much better person, got promoted. I got a promotion plus pay raise and asked to change my start time to 7 AM. The problem was solved and everybody was happy, including the board who had their own problems with the now ex-boss and were pleased that I had given them a chance to remove him. Well, OP, good for you. Your malicious compliance didn't just put you in a better position, but you also gave them a chance to remove that old boss. So congratulations, OP, and thank you for sharing. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.